This session is about you as regulators in terms of setting our research agenda. We have a great panel of folks who've joined us today. This is very much similar to and revolving around the discussions we had yesterday during lunch, where I spoke about new directions and especially new directions in research. The IATR is becoming more involved in research, and it needs to be in an organized, cooperative manner, where we set priorities and get things done. So this session is about you, and we need your input. I identified yesterday a couple of different topical areas, which include taxi technology, which is big, ITS, GPS, paratransit reform, which includes the accessibility issue, of course. The other area that we identified was airports as quasi-taxi regulators in coordination and working together with airports. And of course the gray areas involved in DOTs and bus and jitney and shuttle regulation and how they interact with taxis. And those are just a few areas. There may be more, and we encourage you to speak up and get involved, because this session is about you, not about us. So the name of the session is IATR's New Research Initiative, Getting Respect, as Rodney Dangerfield would say, and results through research, driving taxis into mainstream transportation planning. That is the goal. We've made tremendous progress with our partners at the Taxi Research Network, Dr. Mundy and Dr. Cooper and Wim Faber, and myself. We actually have, for the first time, a taxi studies group. It's sparking interest all over the place, and I'm going to introduce our panelists now and allow each of them a few moments to tell you a little bit about themselves and their research. We have our first ever poster session. Until this year, I had no idea what a poster session was. I thought that's kind of like going into a teenager's room and looking at the posters. Now we've seen the posters, they're in the other room. You know, during the breaks, which are going to be a little bit extended today, I would encourage you to go and ask questions of the authors of the papers, and I'm sure you can obtain copies of them. And we're gearing up basically with this session, you know, to basically set up a list of priorities and studies that will get done, and try to find the right people to do them with us or under our auspices, or just do it on their own, as NIOSH has done with Dr. Menendez and Harlan. And then basically work and partner with us. So the extent of our involvement will be determined, but I think what we need today is to come away from this session with a list of general topics, okay? Maybe some broad studies that can be done in certain areas, and then have sub-studies come out of it. For instance, Dr. Gigi from City University wants to do a study on the carbon footprint of parataxis. Or paratransit vehicles. I mean, there are all sorts of subtopics that can come out of this. So, but first, I think we have to get an agreement on all of our regulators saying these are the broad areas that we want you to focus on, and then we can drill down and have proposed authors, universities, and partners to do each study and have a timeline for getting it done, so that things don't drag on forever. And some of these studies may turn out to be quasi-policy papers. What do I mean by that? The IATR may have a particular issue that it wants to take a stand on to help its regulators. There could be a number of regulators who basically are having a problem, let's just say for argument's sake, with the 5% credit card charges. And I just throw that out there as a timely topic that's percolating. There may be a coordinated approach that is involved with research and studies and GPS technology, that the IATR may say, this is our preferred best practice, this is our paper, and then regulators could actually take that paper with them, rely on it, whether it's with professors or consultants, whoever's doing it, universities, and rely on it when they're testifying before the Board of Aldermen, City Council, Parliament, Congress, wherever you're going with it, to give it to your mayor, your director, whoever you're dealing with. That's the goal of this. This is hands-on, this is practical, this is not abstract, this is not going to be hypothetical. You know, the topics may you know, go in that direction, discussion may go in that direction today, but Dr. Cooper and I will try to bring it back down to the main goal, which is to get your input and for you to set the agenda before we leave today. So without further ado, I want to introduce our panelists very briefly, and then we're going to go right down the line. Is that what we're doing, Dr. Cooper? I'll turn it over to James, and then we'll work backwards and go in the order that he prefers. I think all of you know Dr. Cooper by now. Dr. Cooper is from Napier University in Scotland. He's been instrumental in helping elevate the debate and get rid of the Dangerfield effect for our industry, trying to get more respect for taxi studies and to actually get taxi studies done, which hasn't happened heretofore. And we appreciate his leadership. And quite frankly, he's devoted a tremendous amount of time behind the scenes. A lot of you don't know this, attending every education and conference planning committee call, helping us get speakers, helping us get European folks, along with Wim Faber, involved in our organization. And we owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude. His bio is extensive. He actually has his first PhD program for taxi studies, which is, I think, a first anywhere in the world, to my knowledge. He is an expert in many different areas, including rural communities. He's done a lot of work in that area. He has 20 years of experience in consulting and transport analysis, and he has 15 years experience as an academic and a researcher. And to his right is Dr. Jonathan Peters. Dr. Peters is a friend and a colleague at the City University of New York. He's affiliated with the College of Staten Island, Staten Island College, and he's also part of the University Transportation Research Center, Region 2, which Dr. Comger is going to talk a little bit about. I think I've tried to explain this TRC world to you in the last couple of conferences, and he's going to talk about his paper that he recently co-authored with myself and Dr. King, Professor King. But I think he's an economics guy. He's a professor of finance in the business department. He's also a member of the doctoral faculty in the PhD program in Earth and Environmental Science at the CUNY Graduate School. He has a PhD in economics from CUNY and his master's in economics from Hunter College. He did work in the private sector in the finance division of AT&T. He is considered in New York City, quote unquote, an expert in congestion pricing. Now, if any of you followed congestion pricing and the debate that was behind it, it was pretty controversial at the time, and he was out there front and center. And I also want to actually thank him. He was my expert witness in a lawsuit that was commenced against the MTA, where we actually won. You know, I was asked to mediate a dispute initially representing a state senator, and things weren't really going very well until we got Dr. Peters involved, and his affidavit raised a couple of eyebrows at the MTA. And the theory of the case was that public transit and the buses in the subways, where there were severe service cuts, is a public accommodation, and the state and local human rights laws, as in many cities and states around the country, is a lot more broader than the ADA is, providing more protections. So we basically represented a state senator and helped him get service restored, which I don't think has ever been done before in the history of New York State, getting service restored by the MTA where there were service cuts in an area that had the highest population, or one of the highest populations, of seniors and disabled. Of course, the case was withdrawn by our plaintiffs and settled because of the service cuts, so there wasn't any precedent involved, but it really opened up a can of worms. Could you imagine? It'd never been done before. People bringing lawsuits, not on the ADA, based upon state and local human rights laws, which have never been interpreted in this way before. So he's been very effective as an expert witness, and I think did a tremendous public service. So thank you for that, for those folks who live back in New York. And to his right, we have Professor King, David King from Columbia University, also a member of the UTRC consortium. He is an assistant professor of urban planning. He has been involved in studies involving travel behavior, and he is considered in New York City to be the quote-unquote parking expert. That doesn't mean getting you out of parking tickets. It means coming up with solutions and innovative ways, you know, to to use parking as a mechanism and its policy for promoting sustainability and an orderly transportation process. He joined the faculty in 2008, and he's very, very involved with the UTRC. To his right, as you know, everybody knows Dr. Mundy. Dr. Mundy is a trailblazer and somebody who basically has been around the block in all areas of transportation, instrumental in getting the Taxi Studies Group, and has an excellent organization. And if you haven't attended an AGTA conference, it's not only a great time, very informative, and we're very, very pleased to be working very closely together on a number of projects, especially the airport study, which is going to be unveiled at our 2013 conference in St. Louis, Missouri, which is Ray's hometown. So Ray has been around the block in terms of taxis, too. He's been involved in numerous studies and consulting and efforts to help our regulators over the years, and I'm sure that will continue, and we look forward to continuing to work with him. Last but not least is Dr. Camille Kamga from the City University of New York at City College, who's the acting director of the UTRC Region 2, New York, New Jersey, and Puerto Rico. He's going to tell you a little bit about the center and what it does. This is kind of a mystery to everybody in the taxi world because they don't really get involved with, because there aren't public funds that come that are involved with taxis. But it is an interesting world where there are many different universities that are designated to do research by the US DOT and its subdivisions, and Camille and also Dr. Buzz Paswell, who was one of the authors, along with Dr. Mundy, of the actual program that was put into place in, I think it was the mid-'80s, where every year they have an RFP where they designate a university in 10 different regions to oversee either a consortium or their own directed research, where they take federal, state, and local funds, and even private funds, and do what's needed to provide the necessary studies for public transportation. Camille has been committed by bringing me as I guess the first taxi expert ever to one of these facilities. We've been working on distinguishing ourselves by, and hopefully with this, there's a new RFP on the streets now that we're bidding on to, which we've won for the last 22 years. What the federal government did is they gave more money to each for the universities, but restricted the number. So there's less that are going to be able to get it, but each one is going to be able to get more money. And we're hopeful that there will be a role for taxis in there for funding and so forth. He is the member of the board, also board of directors of the Intelligent Transportation Society of New York. He's very, very involved in ITS. In addition to running the UTRC Region 2 Center. He also teaches, I know, we both teach transportation policy at City College, as well as a variety of other courses. He has a PhD in civil engineering from the Graduate Center of the City University of New York. He has a master's in civil engineering, specializing in transportation, which he received in '97, and a BS in civil engineering from the University of Moncton in Canada. So he has some roots here. Okay, so that's our distinguished panel. Now I am going to turn it over to Dr. Cooper, who's going to get the discussion going. And then we're going to give everybody a few minutes to talk about what they do, their studies, and then we want to really encourage you, even when they're giving their presentations, to ask questions. And before this is over, we want everybody to participate, and I'll be out there trying to get you to participate and tell us what you want us to study. And then we'll figure out a way to do that, and we'll report back to you. Dr. Cooper?
Okay. Well, I'm going to sit here and just direct the experts to my right, and while I'm sitting here, they have the opportunity to take the podium and get their PowerPoints ready and present. As Matt has said already, this is a session where we are hoping, expecting, and looking forward to discussing and hearing and talking. We're going to make very, very short presentations, and I will start waving my hands up at the podium when there's a minute or so left. Hopefully we will get interesting questions for you. We really are looking forward to your interesting questions to us, and we will pause halfway through and turn to a discussion. So if I can invite Dr. Kamga